Good morning, Zio here, and we're talking about the Google Stadia today. Apparently it's not doing so well, and it has launched, full-fledged launch. Got to put some money on it if you want it. And this launch has, as predicted, gone very, very unsmooth. I guess is the nicest way to put it. So let's just get into it, shall we? So we're going to start right about the beginning, right before the launch. So we're going to get into several things that are going on right now with Google Stadia. And I had been hearing from people that apparently after I did my first video on this, of course, talking about it and questioning whether or not the thing was going to be dead on arrival or if it was going to be any good, one of the things I talked about was the gaming lineup. There's about 12 games. I keep thinking there was 10 beforehand, but whatever. It's not the point. And I kept hearing people suddenly go about a day or so before it launched going, hey, they've added new games. It's like, oh, well, that's cool. That's good for them. Because when you're running a service like this, a service where you're trying to bring things to people, have something to entice them to come and use your product, Generally, when it comes to something like this, more is better. If you're looking at something like Disney Plus, and you look at it, and the only thing Disney Plus has on it is, say, I don't know, the 2 new Star Wars movies or something, and that's it. That's all it's got. You're probably not going to pay for Disney Plus, especially if everything else is somewhere else. But when they pull it all together and they bring, all the other shows and stuff that Disney makes and things and throws it onto the system or the service, it makes it way more enticing because more is better. And of course, it makes me wonder, why aren't those games included to begin with? Are other games that they said that they were going to add ready to go? Do they have the ability to go ahead and throw it on the roster right now? Do they have whatever it is on the backside when it comes to copyright and anything else that they need to do in order to supply these games to people? Do they have the ability to do it now? Because if so, you might want to get on it and put it out there and let people have access to it. Because when it comes to this, more is better. And then again, when it also comes to this, if you don't have, if the game's unplayable too, that's a whole other story. But I heard people talking about how some kind of conspiracy theory that they suddenly threw 10 more games on the thing as some kind of panic move by Google. And, when it comes to something that seems so obvious, you're 2 days away. Everybody's talking about your service. They're not talking favorably about your service. And the only thing that you can do when it comes to what their talking points are, besides, all the stuff that you promised that you would have at launch that you're not having, is to add more games. The dang right, they added more games in a panic move because they needed it. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to help them all too much. When it really comes down to it, all joking aside from, the start of this and everything else, it really does seem like Google Stadia has kind of flopped right now. And it's not like it was hard to see either. But there's a lot of issues with it. The service is not ready. It really isn't. It's not ready for launch. Obviously, nobody took it out and beta tested it into the wide world. That's why you have companies like Blizzard and ZeniMax and others who will throw things out. There are 2 people all over the place to beta test. Like when I beta tested ESO, I lived nowhere near where those servers actually start. But me and thousands of other people, I'm sure, beta tested that game to see, not only just to find bugs and everything else, but to see, what the connectivity was. To find bugs, to try and overload servers, to see the server strength, all those things in general. And I feel like Google kind of didn't do that, which is the weirdest thing because you've got Google here, probably one of the biggest tech giants, that You ask somebody what is one of the biggest companies or something, they're probably going to say Google. Google has all sorts of things. Google has phones. Google has computers. Google has, stuff that I can't think of off the top of my head. You've got Gmail. You've got Google itself. The top used search engine. You've got YouTube and all sorts of other things that are owned by Google. Google has a lot. Their parent company, Alphabet and everything, owns a lot. So the fact that they botched it like this, couldn't take the time to do, just basic, what I feel is like beta testing. Just go out there and go, all right, we're going to go out into rural wherever and set up something and test it just to see how it works, if it's going to work, if we're going to have lag or anything. It's like nobody even took the time to do that. Well, we've got this Matt here who's writing a review on this, and this seems to be a thing that's across the board. Input lag, that was one of the criticisms leveled against it, and it is affecting it massively unless you're on the Pixel. If you're on the phone with the controller, apparently it looks great. The input lag is like negligible at most, but with PC, you get that, especially if you're using anything like a third party or a keyboard and mouse. But if you want to remove some of that, use their actual controller. Should not be a thing. I should be able to have the option to play with either or without having to buy their controller. And if that's going to be the product that I get, because I'm not going to pay them a bunch of money for their controller, it's going to be a big turnoff, But of course, the other thing that seems to be having an issue is graphics. You've got people comparing it with the PS4, the Xbox One, because all these games are out. These games have been out. It's not like Stadia has anything new other than the one indie game that it had. Everything else has been out for years now at this point, but apparently it cannot do 4K as promised, so that's a big thing. And of course, the graphics just look better on the native systems that these games are. PC probably looks a lot better too. But you've got Stadia over here on the left, Xbox One on the right, and you can definitely tell there's a noticeable difference, a noticeable blur over with the Stadia, and that's just part of when it comes to remote playing. It's not handling the load like it should be, which is a weird thing because that was its biggest role. That was one of the things that was supposed to be Stadia's, Google's hardware was going to handle all the hard stuff. And if you can't handle the hard stuff any better than that, it's not looking so well. But you can go ahead and you can just see how, over here on the Xbox One, it's so much clearer, way more crisp, and everything else than it does like using the Stadia. Anyway, it is an issue with lag input. Definitely an issue with lag input that's going on. However, of course, things have been a bit mixed when it comes to that, because you do have people reporting that everything seems fine, while you have other people reporting that the game is practically unplayable in places like what is it? I want to say Europe. There were reports from other reviewers and people up there where they're looking at like 4 seconds of lag input. And that makes a lot of games unplayable. It goes from being just an annoyance of hitting your spacebar, waiting a second, and then doing whatever it is you're doing. That is just making the game completely unplayable at that point, especially when you've got games like shooters or fighting games or something where seconds matter, like milliseconds matter. You can't play the games that way. It's just not going to happen. You've had people testing this in larger cities. You've had people testing this in rural, places. You've had people in the country testing this. You've had people testing this on heavy office traffic networks, where their network speeds is 200 plus megs down and stuff like that. You've had people testing it at home, and they've been for the bulk of people testing this and putting out their reviews and everything, it would seem that Google Stadia has just flopped, especially with the input lag. That is like the biggest issue right now, is just the lag itself. However, there are a few other people out there who are experiencing really no issues at all, other than maybe a few things. Like IGN, they wrote a pretty decent review talking about how great it does and that it looks great. And then, of course, they're sharing their stuff as well. All these things will be in the description if you want to take a look, yourself. But they wrote a pretty decent review on it about how good it is, and they love it. They like it. It seems to work fine for them, which, of course, is... I don't really know how to take that, considering other people in their same area can't get Stadia to work very well. But I guess it really just depends on what was happening on the back burner. That one can be a conspiracy, though. We don't know. But anyway, it does work fine with some people. And I forgot to bring those things up. There have been people testing it out. Their video evidence, by the way, of them going out, no input lag, no issues, which has been, gives it this mixed review thing. But other than that, Stadia really has a lot of ground to cover to get back, because there's a good possibility they're going to be eaten alive by Microsoft. And if you don't know what I'm talking about Project xCloud. Because of this whole stuff with Stadia, of course, it made me look into some things, and I didn't even realize Project xCloud was even a thing. But Project xCloud is apparently Microsoft's version of Google Stadia, with noticeable differences. It's available right now. It's in what they're calling a preview mode, which, if you don't understand that one, which, you may not, I don't know, it essentially means it's in beta at the moment, or beta. Anyway, it's sort of in a testing phase, and it seems to be working really well for a lot of people. And unlike Stadia, which you pay for the thingy, the equipment and stuff, and then you pay for the games, or you can go the free route when that does eventually launch and still pay for the games. But with xCloud, you apparently pay a subscription similar to Netflix, and you get access to every game in the library, which is the system I would prefer. That one I would do. I don't have an Xbox. I only have a PS4. But I wouldn't mind looking into doing this particular service myself. Especially if I can pay a monthly subscription and get access to over 20 games. Which is another thing. There's about 50 games on the service as well. And it seems to be doing it a lot better. That's a neat little setup. Huh. But anyway. Yeah. Anyway, that's what's apparently going on. I think Google Stadia's got a lot of ground to cover, and the next few days they're going to have to cover it really quickly, especially if they want to try and keep up and not be a complete and total failure. Oh, wait, there's more. I forgot. More keys. Okay, so here's the deal. You get it. Your hardware goes out. They're doing a staggered shipping for some unknown reason. Google can't figure out how to get people their product day one. No, they've got to stagger the shipping, right? And then they've also decided they're going to stagger the keys, which are codes for that they have to email for you to sign in from your computer and set your profile and stuff up and do things with your computer. They can't even do that one right, apparently. For some odd reason, Google, who, runs Gmail, is incapable of sending a mass email out into the wide, wide world and go, hey, here's your ID so you can log into the Stadia thing online. Enjoy. No, they can't do that. They're staggering them. And then they're not even staggering them right, apparently. You've got people who are ordering like days before it launched, getting their codes, while people who would be considered the founders not getting their codes. It is the weirdest thing. A company like Google should not be botching this launch so hard unless they truly have no idea what it is that they're doing, which I honestly think that's the case. They have no idea what they're doing. They're getting into gaming just like everything else that they try to get in. They don't know or understand just the smallest bit of how any of it works, and it flops. Because trust me, this is not the first thing that Google has tried to do that they wind up shutting down or ending early, because it just doesn't go anywhere because they don't know what they're doing. Anyway, that we'll end with. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. I will talk to you later. See ya.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment, smash that like button, and always subscribe for more. And of course, there are other videos floating around somewhere on the screen, so click one of those and see if you can find something that suits your fancy. Till then, I'll see you later. Bye.